Let's get our first guest in. Nick is working the phones. We've got another former Wimbledon champ, 1987, former top 5 player in the world, Australian tennis legend. We've had him on before. Pat Cash joins us. Pat, it's good to see you. Jeff here with Vicky Duval, Nick Monroe. How's your summer going? Is there anything planned specifically as we get closer and closer to Wimbledon?
There's always something to do for me, being a Wimbledon champion, living in London. So yeah, there's always something to do. It's busy. It's great. You know, Wimbledon's an exciting time for me. It's always great to. I'm being a member. I can go back to the club whenever I like, of course. But it's it's such a great honour to be able to walk into that beautiful club, and it's just looking amazing at the moment. So I'm very excited about it.
Nice. Well, Pat, thanks for taking the time. We're looking at your win here in 1987, and just want to have your thoughts on the memories there. How did that feel to win Wimbledon, and now you're a member, and that's your home club?
Yeah, well, I've sort of become more famous for doing this, climbing through.
Yeah, you were the
and
first one to do this as well. Is that something that you thought about leading into the match? That hey, if I win, I'm going to do this.
I did actually, but I didn't plan it very well. It took me a long time to get up there, and it was this close to being the most embarrassing moment of my life, having to turn back. But that was the first. I suppose the first team that was really in tennis that I created. My trainer was up there, my physio was up there, I even had a stringer in the box there, my father and my coach, of course, and it was sort of unheard of back in those days to have that sort of team, but I figured it was something that I needed to do, and obviously a lot of players have realised that, and it sort of followed suit. It makes complete sense. So now we see had to expand the players' boxes now, and so they can fit 10 people in there. But it was it was those. I mean, of course, it was different those days. But fast grass courts, fast balls, a lot of just scrambling and jabbing shots back, and the quickest and fastest players tend to do well on there. And of course, there's the net play that you could take advantage of.
Pat, I feel like they should call it the Pat Rush.
They should. I like that. Good call.
I know, right? You've acknowledged, it's good to see you again. You've acknowledged that the level of tennis today is exceptional, and that the players are very physical, and it's very intense. But you've also said that you preferred the playing style in your era. So what do you think it is about the game today that's maybe lacking, or something you would like to see more?
Well, I think it's just the way that the game has adapted. We've got courts that we're seeing here today, though. That's Mallorca. That court in Mallorca is pretty poor. I've been sort of supporting Gabriel Diallo recently, so I was just watching the match before this. That court's not great, but generally speaking, the courts. See, the ball's not bouncing there. You couldn't even bounce the ball. But the courts are generally really high bouncing. The grass is sort of longer and thicker, and the balls are sort of slower than my era. So it lends itself, and of course, the most important thing I think is the strings the players have, and so it's much easier to hit a passing shot off a good volley. I mean, you have to hit an exceptional volley to be able to win the point these days. Though I do still think on a fast grass court, which we're going to see because the summer's been warm here, that attacking play is going to be really important to come to the net. So there's still a part of it there, but we've just lost the variety of tennis. There's a lot of players who do a lot of things really, really well, really well. They hit the ball incredibly well, hit the ball powerfully. They're taller, they move, they cover the court so well. The one part of the game that hasn't improved is the volley, because we were sort of experts at that, and I miss that part of it, but when you're seeing some great matches like we saw in the French Open, and we have seen Wimbledon over the years, Federer and Nadal staying back and mixing the play up. It's hard to argue that the tennis isn't better itself, but I just think it's the variety. It's a bit tends to be a bit bland, and I've been really against the all white look as well at Wimbledon because I say, well, look. The players are playing all the same way. Now they're looking all exactly the same way. And add a little bit of colour into it.
That's an interesting take.
Yeah,
as we see Mute get the first set 6-2, chopping up Lerner TM. I want to piggyback off the physicality talk and the style, because I think when most people think of physical tennis, we saw 5.5 hours, grueling side-to-side power spin. But what people might overlook is, let's take someone like you back in the day, or anyone that's serving and volleying first and second serve. Even if it's shorter points, shorter duration of match, that physicality, different muscles, aggressively rushing the net over and over, that's a physicality that actually hits different. Could you elaborate on that for fans at home that might not realize that?
Yeah, look, it's a sprint. We're doing lunging all the time, and as you said, even if we're serve volleying first and second serves, if we miss a first serve, we've still hit a serve and a sprint. Mm-hmm. So you tended to find the players who were slightly stockier, bigger thighs. The players these days, so in a way we were more like sprinters. I think the players these days are more like middle distance runners. You'd see them, they're maybe 5,000 meter runner looks to them. Long limbs, cover the court well. They can just do it for hours. Where in my days it was a sprint. Every single point was a sprint to the net, lunging constantly, going backwards and forwards, and so you don't see too many players in my era who walk straight. They've got bad backs or hip replacements or something. I mean, the conversation when you meet up with everybody else is going, oh, what did you get replaced this week?
Well, Pat, we're reliving your Davis Cup championships here. 2 of them. You won Wimbledon as well, as we've been mentioning. What's been the biggest highlight of your career that you really kind of hang your hat on and say, you know what, that was awesome?
Well, it's very hard to beat Wimbledon, of course, winning the championships there. But, Davis Cup is huge. And Davis Cup meant a lot to Australians. Always had a great Davis Cup history. That was hugely important for us. Played 3 finals, lost one to the US, but got to, we won 2 at grass at home, with your teammates. You don't have a lot of, tennis is a great team sport. It just doesn't, we tend to highlight the individual in the sport. And doubles, unfortunately, is taking a bit of a back step, I suppose, mm-hmm. which is sad because it's such a great sport. But the Wimbledon, I'm very proud of my 2 Australian Open finals, particularly the first one at Melbourne Park, which was called Flinders Park back then. I lost 8-6 in the 5th to Mats Wilander. It was a great final, and I just came a little bit short. So, that for me, that was important because it translated, even though I'd been in the US Open semi-final in 1984, I didn't want to be regarded as this guy who was just good on grass. Mm-hmm. And for me to get through the Australian Open and be, within a couple of points of winning that title was great. And Matt's had a great year that year, won 3 of the 4 slams, and, he was just a fraction too good for me. Mm.
You opened up about having bouts of anxiety and depression throughout your life. Yesterday we had Emil Rusevori on the show, who was very candid about his struggles. And we've seen a lot of the players start opening up more about what it's like on tour on the mental side. So I just wanted to know, first of all, what you think about that, and also if you dealt with mental health struggles while you were playing and how you were able to overcome them.
Yeah, well, ironically, yes, I did struggle really badly. There was times where I really didn't feel like it was worth living going on. But I had children, and I did get in. I had a sports psychologist with me through that my peak period of time. So that sort of set me upon a life of mental well-being, and that has been my passion for the last 30 years, really 40 years, is coaching and helping players. Some of them is on court, obviously, but a lot of it is mental well-being and how to deal with various things. So, I've been it really has been a mission for me, and that's been the most important thing. And I'm a much happier person now than I ever was, but that's due to some really important things that I've done, and that's been as I said, a main focus. I do enjoy I have to be very wary of not getting too stressed. It's very different in the tennis circuit, but when you've got a family and you're traveling and you're trying to compete and you've got the media after you and your pressure and all that sort of stuff, it sounds really fun, but as some of you guys will know, that if you are not getting to semi-finals of Grand Slams and you're struggling to make a living, it's tough out there. And there's so many good players, so many good players. It's the toughest professional sport there is, individual professional sport. There's no doubts about it. You don't have the support. You don't have a team. You don't have a football team or a basketball team. Somebody who's doing all this stuff for you. It's you and your coach and maybe a parent or whatever it happens to be. But I think I think the WTA, they've done a lot of. I was coaching a Chinese player, Wang Qiang, or she's known as Q Wang. She's retired now, but we traveled together for a couple of years, and the WTA were absolute disgraceful embarrassment to say that they care about players' well-being. I wrote letter after letter, tried to get help for us and for the team. This was during the sort of lockdown era where we were, she was struggling to get home. They were very poor, and I think as tennis associations, not just the professional ones, but governing bodies, they need a well-being care program for young players coming through and juniors, and I don't see it. I just don't see it. And you say, well, when they're older, they've always got somebody to talk to. That's not good enough. That is absolutely not good enough. And I think there really needs to be some hard looking at some of these, the USTAs and the Tennis Australias and these sort of people who build these players up, give them everything, and they get injured and have a bad year, and they go, well, good luck with your life. And they leave you go. And that's just really wrong. So I think I would like to see a change in that. In that area of mental well-being for young people.
As Vicky said, it's kind of been a theme because we spoke with Emil, so it's nice to hear you bring more light to those struggles for people at home. Tennis fans at home, I feel like, would love to get any swing thoughts or tips, especially from one of the better net players of all time. So is there a facet of volleying or net play in general, maybe one that goes under the radar or underappreciated, under-practiced? Anything that comes to mind?
Well, the volleying is all about really getting your feet into the right place. And the Rocket Rod Laver used to say that you volley with your feet. I don't think he meant that literally, but he was talented enough. He probably could pull it off, Rocket. But it's getting into the right position and really keeping your racket out and in front of you and not needing to do too much. But the thing that I've noticed of the modern players, there are some exceptions, of course, but if I look at Gabriel Diallo here, who I've been sort of advising, I'm constantly saying, once you get to the net, you have to lower your center of gravity. You have to sprint into the net, not just sort of run into the net, sprint into the net and keep your racket out in front. Now, a lot of the players, they don't sprint into the net, or if they do, they end up not having the racket out. I know it sounds so basic. It's like the first lesson you get when you're a tennis player as a kid in volleys is like, put your racket out in front, keep the racket in front of your face, right? But they just don't do it. And they take big swings. So the modern player takes a big swing and a short follow through, and they tend to cut on the ball. That's not the way to volley. You take a small backswing and you hit a long follow through straight through the ball. And that's, I think that's the most common mistakes I see at pro level and amateur level.
Well, Pat, we're going to let you go on this one. Give me a hot take. Who's going to win the men's and women's singles? Quick hot take.
Oh, the women, I have no idea.
Okay, go with the men's.
Give me a tougher question. Look, I think Alcaraz, but I think Sinner's got a chance. Sinner's got a chance.
All right.
But the women, ooh. Yeah, I don't know. It's so hard.
I'll call you later and you get back to me.
I'll text you later.
Text you later. Well, thanks, Pat. Thanks for joining us. I know you're there at Wimbledon now, and enjoy the championships. Look forward to seeing you.
Thanks very much. See you soon,
Pat.
guys.
Appreciate it.
Take care.